I did a video, it was probably about a year ago. And in the video, I talked about the film 3 Days of the Condor. So that this video is for people who love the film 3 Days of the Condor. So in in this video, I talked about the fact that I'd seen that movie well over 200 times. I stopped counting a long time ago, but I've seen it many times. And I I talked about the film, and at the end of the video, I said, I would love to I talked about how it has like a cult following, you know, and I talked about how I'd love to interview Robert Redford about the film, because I bet a lot of the people who follow, love the film in that cult like way would love. They know a lot about it, and they'd like to know, answers to lingering questions they might have. So I think I made that video last summer, a year ago, or last fall. And so I decided in January, I'm like, oh hell, I'll try to get in touch with Redford. Who knows? Maybe he'll do an interview. And I started to think about it. I thought, well, maybe I have a chance because, I'm not a Hollywood person. I don't have like a big following on my YouTube channel, right? So I'm not like a well-known blogger or something, right? That's going to give him a lot of views. But I thought, maybe if he realizes this is the kind of interview a lot of people probably wouldn't ask him to do, right? So I wasn't gonna, so I thought, what if I tell him I don't want to ask you questions about your life, or your childhood or your relationships or any other films. I just want to talk about 3 Days of the Condor and ask you some in-depth questions about it for people who are really fascinated by the film. So I thought, oh, what the hell? I'll give it a shot. So I joined IMDb Pro so I could look up who his agent was, got the name of the agent and the contact info, contacted her, spoke to her assistant, and explained what I was interested in. She said, she said, you can email me about this and I'll put it in front of my boss and see what she says. So I did. I sent her an email and I included, my thinking was, well, I want to demonstrate to Redford that I'm not adult. Like I really know this film, and I wanted, I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I've understood, I've come to understand some things about film, right, and storytelling, and so being the age that I'm at and having studied a lot of movies, right. So I thought what I'll try to do is demonstrate. I'll put together 2 pages of questions, and I'll demonstrate my knowledge of this film and of filmmaking. And maybe that would be appealing to him. Maybe, the fact that I want to focus on this one film and go in depth would compensate for the fact that I'm not a famous blogger or YouTuber or, Hollywood interviewer. So that was my approach. So I put together these 2 pages of questions. I asked really good questions, I thought. And I said, these are just samples of the type of, this would characterize the type of thing I want to ask you. I won't slavishly follow this. And I'll probably have some other questions too, but this will characterize for you what the discussion would be like. So I submitted it, and I followed up with the assistant, I think twice after that. And the second time, she said, well, I showed your proposal to my boss. She presented it to the team, and they've put the proposal in front of Mr. Redford, supposedly. That's what she told me. She sounded sincere, so I actually believed her, But then I'm usually very tenacious about following up until I hear no. You know what I mean? This is like one case in my life that I didn't do that because I thought it's a long shot, and they'll get back to me if he wants to do it, and they never did. So anyhow, my hope in doing this, what I thought I'd do is just share some of the questions and put this up on YouTube. I thought other big fans of the film might appreciate that and might enjoy it. But also, I think, well, maybe if it gets around, maybe what if it does get to him? What if he gets on YouTube and searches 3 Days of the Condor, comes up, and it's placed in front of him, and he watches it? Maybe that would inspire him to either say yes, I'll do the interview, or maybe he'll just create his own video, or find another way to answer the questions for the people that follow the film. So I just want to share some of these questions with you. So the first question I asked was, I knew from interviews with Pollock that Redford actually came up with the idea for the film, and he approached Pollock, and they were friends, right? They'd worked together previously. So if you listen to these interviews, like they worked closely together on this film. They developed the ideas together. And then I heard an interview with Hank Garrett, the guy who played the mailman, and in one of these interviews on YouTube, he actually says that Redford asked Pollock if he minded if Redford just directed that fight scene, and Pollock said fine. So that suggested to me like these guys really worked a lot. So in other words, Redford, his role as an actor, his role in the film went way beyond actor, and he crossed the line to being like co-director in some cases, right? So I wanted to ask about that process and how far it went. Like, could he characterize the extent to which they did work together, and what does Redford feel he contributed to the film? What could he point to in the film that's where where it would say like that's me, that was my idea. I wanted to shape this scene in this way, and that's how we did it, or. So I just want to understand his contribution to the vision for the film, right? Um, then I heard an interview with Pollock where he said that he sat down and with Redford and they dug into each scene, and that in this process the film was transformed from just the fun film they originally envisioned. And I was going to ask him if he could give us a sense for for that. What was that process like working through this with Pollock? In what ways did he see the film ultimately transformed? My next question had to do with I've always been fascinated um, with the computer technology in this film because it's so advanced. Um, so, like the question I talk about, there are technologies in this film, computer technologies that the general public wasn't really exposed to until at least the 90s. So things like, remember the scanner? They use the scanner to scan the book. So it must be using optical character recognition and scanning to scan the book into a database. And then they said it analyzed the books that way. So the computer would analyze the books. Remember Higgins has that young guy helping him. They search a multimedia database, and that's where they see the cross section between uh, Jobert and the mailman, right? So there's like multimedia database where they're doing searches. The voice to text translation systems that Turner uses when he's in the basement and he's getting the phone number for the uh, for Jobert's room, and then uh, for the address for Wicks. I mean, oh God, the guy, the guy in DC that he goes to see. I forget his name right now. Um, yeah. So I was wondering, like, it was so advanced. Did they hire like a computer consultant to work with them, or was this like, do they have a CIA guy involved that advised them on like this is the current state of CIA technology? I just wanted to know more about that technology and how they got it right. The atmosphere. One thing I love about this film is the atmosphere, and I talked about in the question combination of the holiday season, the cold, the cloudy New York City December, um, the emotional coldness of the CIA characters, but then the sense that Turner and Kathy are finding emotional warmth in their collaboration to battle the assault from the CIA to try to kill him. And I was just wondering how do they go about playing this incredible atmosphere in the film, and what sorts of discussions took place regarding the elements that would contribute to the creation of this overall atmosphere. Um, I had some questions about the locations where they filmed. So I was wondering, for example, where was Atwood's home in the one that was supposed to be in DC? Where was it actually located? Was it in DC? Did they shoot all of the Lit Society interior shots on location at the Brownstone, or were any filmed in the studio? Were all of the World Trade Center interior shots shot inside the World Trade Center? Like, for example, the scenes where Kathy is applying for the job, was that actually filmed in the World Trade Center? Um, what about the diner scene? Was where Turner picks up lunch for everyone? Was it actually shot in a New York City diner? Um, I was wondering. I thought, you know, I've heard some people criticize this, but I thought it was masterfully done. I really thought it was well done, and that is the fact that Turner and Kathy have to go through a transition in their relationship. You know, from that captor captive relationship to an intimate relationship, and a transition like that is difficult to pull off in a short time and make it believable. But it seems like they really pulled it off masterfully. I believed it. I believed it. I didn't question it. It worked for me. Now I did begin after I saw it 30 times, I started saying, maybe that's a little unbelievable. But I never would have thought like, oh, that's crazy. I thought it was really well done. And I just wanted to see how they planned that transition out and how Redford felt about it. Was he happy with it? Did he feel like they really pulled it off himself? Um, and then the final stuff I have here, it's questions about the character actors. So I wrote here, the character actors in this film all delivered stunning performances, especially Wicks, the mailman, and Sam Barber. Is there anything that you or Pollock did to elicit such great performances? I mean, I feel like there must have been some magic going on in that set with these guys working together with this script, with this story. It's so damn good. You know, they were doing something like to get really great performances out of these people. Like for example, Sam Barber, the guy that played Sam Barber, I forget his McGuinn, I think was his name. McGinn. He was in another Pollock film, Bobby Deerfield, which was filmed like a year before or after this, or 2 years after this, and and with Pacino. I didn't think he was as good in that. He had a bit part. He was a character actor. It could have been the script, his but he wasn't as believable, and I didn't think he was nearly as good as in Condor. So what were they doing to get such great performances out of these people? Um, I thought it'd be neat to know, like, how did Redford feel about Max working with Max von Sydow? Does he have any stories or anecdotes to share? That'd be neat to hear, right? And like the filming with him at the Atwood's house. Um, what could you tell us about Michael Caine, the guy who played Wicks? I I was taken with Wicks was so damn good as an actor. I couldn't believe how good this guy was, and I thought, I'd like to know, like, how was he chosen for the part, and what were Redford's thoughts about his performance. So that's that's it. Um, I usually don't ask this of people, but I could share I could share this video if you can, because I'm hoping it'll somehow eventually get to Redford, and maybe he'll do an interview with me or someone else, or make his own video to answer these questions. So thanks.